Alright, so here's a little video I'm going to make about knives, survival knives and sharpening knives. I was cruising YouTube last night, found some videos about AK bayonets, and I was digging through a bunch of my old junk, and I found a couple, and decided to try and sharpen them up. And one reason I usually dismiss them as a serious usable knife is because they're really fucking dull. They're really hard to sharpen, and and they're kind of cheap. Okay, but I did an introduction martial arts video on knife fighting. I've taken knife fighting lessons from some people that obviously knew what they were doing, and their martial art came from a country which is not known for having high-end steel. It's known for having a bunch of guys know how to cut each other. And so, in the knife fighting styles that I learned, they weren't heavily dependent on using a particular type of knife. And when I've seen the tribal made knives from that particular country, they were nothing impressive. So, in using a common cheap kitchen knife, realize this is something that you're going to use almost every day in the kitchen, so you get used to how it cuts. You'll probably be up on how sharp it is. You're going to know how it cuts. You're going to know if in your general day-to-day use, one part of the blade is sharper or duller than the other. You also, if you have a little sharpening stone near it, some people neglect to sharpen their kitchen knives, others don't. But it's something that you're probably really familiar with. And ancient humans tended to use the same knife for everything. So even though this isn't really much of a fighting knife and really doesn't have all that much of a stabbing point, it's still a real slasher. It can still be used in an immediate self-defense situation. And the balance on it's not half bad. You can do some transitions here. The balance comes in at a point right about the tip here. So it's a really easy knife to do transitions with. A little more traditional survival knife would be like this Schrade SGHF. It's a knockoff of the Chris Reeve. I've used it at work. Obviously, there's some dirt and stuff on it. I'm going to be cleaning this one up today. They come with a decent factory edge, and you open up the box, you got a knife and a sheath that's good to go. You don't really have to do much to it. They come with just a plain knurled handle, which is just fine. The only reason I put this parachute cord on here is because I think it's cool. They have this cool little toolbox in the handle. Perfectly fine, perfectly good survival knife for about $50 to $70, $80 depending on where you buy it. And if you have trouble finding them where you can just walk in and pay cash, don't be afraid to pay $80 to have something you know is going to be good. Now, when we get into piece of shit knives, a lot of time people are talking about AK bayonets. The steel on these is actually okay. The problem is that when you buy one new, they're about as sharp as a bowling ball. These things are dull as fuck. And it is a lot of work to sharpen one. Very few people go through the trouble of sharpening one of these things. The factory edges on them, I gotta say, are just plain bad. Okay, there's nothing good about the factory edges on these things. This is an AK-47 bayonet. The fittings here are what would fit a milled receiver rifle. There's no wire cut or anything like that. It's your basic World War II fighting knife style. They usually come with both edges dull. This one's I've modified a little bit in that in handling it on my sharpening equipment here, I couldn't really handle it the way I want to handle it and have both edges sharp. Like let's say Sykes Fairbairn fighting knife style, where the whole damn thing's sharp. So what I did was I modified this into a single edge blade. The other thing is that some states will have differentiation on how they treat knives with a double edged blade if you carry concealed, or there's some other restrictions involved. Sometimes It's a misdemeanor to carry a sheath knife concealed, but it's a felony to carry it concealed if it's a double-edged blade. If it's in your vehicle, there's other issues. Some states, it may be illegal to have it, what they consider a weapon type knife. So by making this into a single-edged knife and actually grinding the back edge flat, where there's actually no cutting ability on the back edge, we've done away with the legal problem. We've also made this knife a lot easier to sharpen in the future, and we've made it easier to use in the field. And one thing you'll notice about the knives that I personally prefer is that if there's an option to get one with or without the saw back, I get it without that. In another one of my videos, I have a Buckmaster. I got that way back in the 80s when I was new to the Marine Corps. I wanted to have something big, bad, cool, and intimidating. That knife fits the bill. These knives are a little better for field utility by a long shot when you don't have a sawback blade. Now, this AK bayonet comes with that, and the hassle of grinding it off is more than it's worth. The other thing, I wouldn't want to hit this back edge with a grinder or a sander in any way that would threaten the way it works with the wire cutter arrangement. The thing about the wire cutter arrangement you got to know on these things, however, is a little tricky to make sure we get the sequence right. But when we got the wire cutter, a good one's going to come with this little rubber thing. It's got a stopper here. Take this seriously. This is not a bullshit part of the knife. This is to keep you from using a wire cutter like this and wiping your thumb out or wiping a finger out. If you go to cut like this, it will fuck you up, okay? Do not grab this above the handle or above this rubber thing when you're using this as a wire cutter, okay? The Russians and the communists don't necessarily give a fuck about their lower ranking troops. So when they put this into practice, a lot of people were saying that this type of wire cutter bayonet was actually invented in the U.S. and then rejected by the U.S. military. And back when the Soviets were ripping off every patent they could from the U.S. Patent Office and flying that shit over to the Soviet Union, they grabbed a patent for this type of knife. They liked it. They decided to start making them. So the way these things are made is because of that wire cutter arrangement, this knife has to be very flat up on this part. Now they'll come with a factory bevel here. I'm not even going to call that an edge. They broke down the edge by a pretty stiff angle. Okay, it's almost a 1 millimeter or 1 centimeter angle. Actually, I'd say it's about maybe 8 or 9 millimeters of angle they took into that. The back side won't even be sharpened at all, and this is where you're going to have a lot of work to make this thing even remotely useful, because what happens is if you go to cut with this thing, it's going to only want to go in one direction, which is tolerable for a right-handed person, all fucked up for a left-handed person. I'll tell you that right now. This knife is a loner knife. I'm left-handed. I'm not going to use this thing much. So what's going to happen on this, though, is you need to sharpen it. And very few people successfully get these sharpened. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to sharpen one of these successfully, so it's going to be as good as any other knife. These knives, again, they come dull. They come with a what's called a frog. Basically, it's kind of a sheath. The thing that's nice about this, it's all metal, and that blade, once it is sharp, isn't going to push through the side of this the way it can happen with knives like the Sykes Fairbairn knife. The other thing that I found is not half bad is the weapon mount sections of this actually help you get a better grip on it. It won't slip forward or backward the way a lot of regular fighting knives will. Even in a reverse grip, it really helps you get a grip on that knife. So if it's slippery, wet, muddy, rough conditions, and you're going to modify one of these to become a fighting knife, I would think about not cutting this stuff off, because it really does help with the grip. It really helps keep that thing from slipping around. And I'm going to show more on this here in a little bit.